Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sunday Evening Sounding Off Podcast. I am your host, Eddie Gonzalez, with my partners in crime coming to you live from Moscow, Russia. And in the house, we've got Daniel Bosworth, just up the road from me here in Moscow.
Good evening.
And Kevin Michelizzi out in where?
Southern Russia, Crimea.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we got Crimea on the house. And
I wish I was there.
yeah, let me tell you, man, it's a little cold today in Moscow, isn't it, Daniel?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we have snow.
What do you say? We
How
have about
cold was it?
about 4 or 5 inches of snow.
Yep,
Easy,
that's a good estimate. Yep.
It
easy.
was cold here too. It was 16 degrees.
Oh,
Oh man, yeah. That's southern Florida. That's southern Florida cold. You know.
Yeah. We took the dog out for a walk, had a good old time in the sunshine.
all right. Keep rubbing it in.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Guys,
sun in a month.
the three idiots
We
are.
went through Yalta yesterday and somebody had put, the spray flocking from Christmas trees on their grass to make it look like there was snow.
Mm.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, guys, it's been a while since we've had the three idiots together,
Mm-hmm.
and it is my distinct honor to bring in an honorary fourth idiot for tonight. Welcome, AfroLev, aka Andy.
Well, I'm very honored to be the fourth idiot. Thanks for bestowing that upon me.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good. Glad you could make it, and glad everyone, Kevin and Daniel, also could join us for tonight and just have a conversation about nothing, really, and actually to talk about you. You're the center of attention,
Man of the hour.
and the man of the hour. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
man, I was supposed to upload a clip that I didn't, but I'll do that here in just a minute while I get Andy talking. Well, I'm an idiot. All right. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I was just gonna say. I was,
Choose the name.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. I forgot. Okay. I'll upload it here in just a second. But
Hey, in all honesty, we had technical issues with the studio today.
we did. Indeed, we did.
Bullshit.
No. It's actually
Serious.
really.
it's a good thing that we actually we kind of started on time. Yeah. Hey, and if you guys are in the live stream, make a comment. Let us know that you're there. And if you got any questions for any of us, and especially our special guest, drop it down in the comments. So, Andy,
Yes, sir.
who the heck is Andy AfroLev, and why should our viewers care?
Well, for the first question, Andy AfroLev is Juppy Andy Makelve. I am a Zimbabwean that was born in Botswana. I'm currently living here in Russia. I make content about Russia to basically give people a different perspective, because I guess I got a little bit irritated when I only saw one perspective. You know, the news in my country is generally Sky News, CNN enthused. So I decided to make a channel to give people another perspective. And I hope people care, because I am officially the fourth idiot. So, I mean, it's a big name that they have bestowed upon me. So I hope they take it very seriously and follow the channel.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you here. And in fact, I'm still trying to upload this stupid little clip. Now, the only thing is now I got to find the clip.
Andy, so how long have you been a blogger or a vlogger?
Mm.
When did you
Uh,
start? When did you start and why?
I started maybe when I was in China, maybe my last year in China, but I wasn't very serious. It was like maybe 3 years ago. But I made these short videos and then I would just stop doing it. But I think this year, like a year ago, I started posting continuously. And I think it was because my wife, she was in RT. She worked as an editor there.
Mm.
So she basically wrote all these articles and she gave me these other perspectives about Russia. And I was like, wow, about Maidan and all these things which I had no idea about. And I was like, hey, I would love to do something like this too. But of course, I'm not so educated in the political field. But I thought maybe I could show people back home something different because they kept on asking me the same question. They're like, are you safe? Are there bombs on the
Hmm.
street? Is there food in the fridge? And I was like, okay, maybe I can make some content so that people can see another perspective because they have only one thing that is popping up on their TV. And that
Hmm.
kind of motivated me to make content. And recently I've started a podcast, and I think it has all come full circle. So basically, I wanted to give people a different view. And also, my wife is Russian, so I'm very dedicated to my Russian family, and it's nice to show people that Russian people aren't the way that the West portrays. So yes,
So,
Does your wife still work for RT?
no, she left this summer. Now she's working in logistics. She's actually doing my major, which is ironic because I'm doing her major now. So it's just like it's one of those.
Yeah.
okay.
I'll ask you in private because I don't want to put her in a spot. But I've worked with a lot of the producers at RT, so I wonder if I've worked with her in the past.
Mm, yeah, she was just an editor, so she wrote articles, put them out, basically behind the scenes, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
Good
So,
deal. Good deal.
Andy,
I
what's
I
your?
just go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Ed.
No. Go ahead.
What's your goal with, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years with the podcast, with your channel, with showing people about living in Russia and about Russia? Is it going to always be on this topic, or are you looking to maybe discuss other topics?
mm, yeah, I guess my main goal here is possibly to get enough people to have a different view of things, maybe something that is more positive towards Russia, because I mean, I can go on the internet right now and find an exuberant amount of things that are negative. That's not difficult. But I want to give people a channel to go to get information. And I would also like to talk about China as well, because that was a place that I lived in for almost a decade. And there are also a few misconceptions, and some of them are true. But I guess my main goal is I look for the truth. My slogan is roaring truths to preserve your pretty voice. So the channel basically gives you the information without straining your voice, because if you're one of those people that are annoyed when you have to voice a point and you're screaming at somebody to listen to you, you can just turn on my video and you can save your breath. So that's the main vision of the channel.
Okay. And
Nice.
and you
Nice.
and you do it full time?
Not full time, but I would say it feels full time sometimes because I sneak in an upload during the week, or I'm editing in bed and I'm trying to find the right moment to post things. So it feels full time. But I would love it to be full time in the future. I think that's why I'm trying to push for the podcast,
Gotcha.
because I think it could be really useful and it's basically something I love doing. So, yes.
Absolutely. For those of you who are watching, and if you're not subscribed to the AfroLev YouTube channel, there's the link. You'll see it down there below, youtube.com at the AfroLev. Go there now, subscribe to his channel. There's more great content coming up. So please do that. And we've got some static on the line.
Yeah, it's very
It
I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, I'm tracing it here, and it looks like the story is monologues and listening to everything we say.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So yeah, Deep State has left the room because I don't hear it anymore. So I guess we're good.
So
Hey, Andy. So let me just tell viewers really quick about this. Andy and I did a collaboration over the previous 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And my interview with Andy that we did at a cafe here in Moscow has been out already for a couple of weeks. If you go to his channel after you've subscribed, you can look for that video and you can watch that. But please wait and watch this live and then go over there and watch that video. But anyway, we did that. And at the same day, we also did some filming. And I got to ask Andy some questions about his background and where he came from and how he wound up here in Russia and married to a Russian wife. And then we also met, I think, a week later in Moscow with his lovely wife, and we had another little chat. So that video debuted on Friday. That's on my channel. And also, after you watch my interview, you can go and watch that interview as well. Anyway, lots of great information. But there was a comment on the video that I made or debuted on Friday. And the title of that video is How a Pandemic Brought Me the Love of My Life with AfroLev. Anyway, the comment is this. And it is from Alina Self. And Alina says, great interview, but ask him to tell us more about his parents. What do they do? Why did he move out of his country? His education? What does his wife do now? Which we've already kind of answered that. And how easy or not easy it was for him to move to Russia. And then, of course, why Russia? Alina, if you would watch my interview with AfroLev, you would know why Russia. So please watch that video. But anyway, let's help Alina and answer some of her questions.
Alrighty. So I'll start with my parents. My dad is an engineer, also a self-proclaimed comedian. Not really a prosperous career, but I give him that. So he is an aircraft engineer. And my mother basically quit her job. She was a teacher. She told me that she couldn't do it because she thought that maybe she would murder the kids because she has a bad temper. So she's a florist now. Oh. My dad is an engineer still. And basically my parents migrated to Botswana from Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe was going through a very difficult time. And they tell us the story. They say, they said they brought my sister in a pot and had 2 plates. That's what they said. I don't know if the story is completely true or they're making it more dramatic, but that's what they say. And ever since then, we were living in Botswana. And my grandfather was basically from Scotland. So he sort of instilled this thing in his family when English was kind of like the number one thing. So my dad tried to carry that on. And he put us into all these private schools. And we had British teachers. We had board teachers from South Africa. So I kind of developed my education through all these private schools, these private institutions. And I ended up going to China for university. And I studied international business and trade and e-commerce. That wasn't my initial idea because I wanted to be a lawyer, but my school kind of, they tricked me, I guess, if we would like to call it that, because they didn't have the major, but they wanted students So basically, after I figured this out, they were like, Andy, you have two options. Either you can go or you can choose another major. So I guess I stuck with international trade because I left home at 17, 18. And I guess most of the years I was working, paying my own bills, paying my own school fees. So I couldn't really afford to move back. So I just stuck to it. International trade and e-commerce. But I dived into teaching instead. I learned Chinese as well. So now I'm an English teacher and a Chinese teacher. It's always strange when my students come into the class because they sign up beforehand and then they walk in and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm just looking for the Chinese teacher. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And the shock in their face, well, that's a story for another day. But I think have I answered everything or have I missed something?
I think almost, you in the video or in our video interview, you mentioned that as a foreigner in China, you felt like a monument, like you stood out as this monument that everyone wanted to see. Maybe you can touch upon that, because you kind of alluded to that when students say, I'm looking for the Chinese teacher, and here comes Andy.
Yeah. I mean, with China is a very big country, but it also has a few corners that are not really explored by foreigners. So, for example, the Beijings, the Shanghais, foreigners are a lot. But in some cities, they are at a premium. You don't really see as many people there in terms of foreigners, right? So basically, when they see a foreigner, they're shocked. And they don't understand, like, oh, this is a foreigner. These are the people we see on TV. And okay, now they are in front of us. And Chinese people are generally curious people, lovely people. Nothing against them. I really actually have a lot of good Chinese friends. But a lot of them are very direct in their approaches. So, of course, if the only black person that you have seen on TV is LeBron James or Kobe Bryant or anyone else, I think you assume that any black person you see is either linked to them or maybe they play for the NBA. And I have been, not accused, but a lot of people will say, oh, so which team do you play for? And I'm like, I don't play basketball. In fact, I'm not a fan. But basically, I'm very visible because I'm pretty tall. I'm dark-skinned, and I was in the middle of China. So that's a very visible sight to begin with. Already I'm a monument. I mean, even generally around my peers, I'm larger than my peers or my classmates or, classmates from the past at least. So I'm generally large. And I guess also being a foreigner kind of added to it. So you get people that want to take pictures. They want to communicate with you. They want to ask you, where are you from? They want to ask you, do you have a Chinese wife? A general conversation in a taxi is basically like 5 different questions, quick fire questions. It's like you're playing a game. It's like, hi, what's your name? Where are you from? Do you have a wife? Is she Chinese? Do you like Chinese food? Do you like Chinese girls? And you're like, okay. And the worst thing is when you know Chinese, first mistake, don't actually give into it, because then the questions actually become faster and more intrusive. But generally as a foreigner, you are a monument. But I feel like as a big black man, you are more visible, I would say. Or if you are a tall white lady, or if you are a large person, I think generally you are more visible. So yeah, you're kind of regarded as a celebrity in many regards, because there are not many of you in certain regions. So people are a bit forward. They want to rub your skin, see if it comes out, or they want to ask you something that might be a bit intrusive. And I know it's not really from a place of hate. It's more of like, I don't understand. Why is this guy here? Where is he from? And why is he in this village? Because I've lived in very small places as well. So it's kind of odd, it's just like, dude just walks into your your region and it's a village just full of Chinese people. It's like, oh, okay, there's Andy. So this is strange. So they ask a lot of questions. So in that regard, yes. a monument, pictures, etc., etc. That's it. Yeah.
That's cool. You know, I've had that happen to me just a couple of days ago. I was on Nikolskaya Street by Red Square, and I walked into a little souvenir shop and I started looking around, and I guess I looked like a foreigner because I was in a souvenir shop, right? And the shopkeeper comes up to me, and he introduces or says hello, and then he says, "We are Arabski," and are you Arab? And I was like, "Yet." Yeah, Mexicanets. Oh, really? And then that opened up a whole other conversation as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool when that happens. But I guess if it happens all the time, every day, I guess it could be uh, quite a negative experience, maybe.
I don't know, Eddie. You obviously don't look Russian. So
you think
you don't look Arab either. So
maybe Caucasian.
Probably Caucasian. I was thinking,
but, Arab, no. But anyway, that was an interesting question. At least, hey, it opened up a conversation. What can I say? Conversation started.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So, Andy, your experience in China, now you're in Russia. Is it similar, or is it different? Two different countries, two different cultures. How are they accepting you? And I mean, I know we're in Moscow. It's an international city. Okay, can you tell me what cities have you traveled to in Russia?
So I'm a pretty. I would say that I'm less exposed to Russia because I've only been in Moscow. I'm planning to go to Yaroslavl this winter so that I can see some history. I want to learn more. But the difference between China and Russia so far, because I guess we need to travel around more. I feel like if I give my opinion, somebody might disagree with me and they're like, "Oh, in Vladivostok, this happens." I have no idea. But from my personal experience, Russian people in Moscow don't really care about me, which is good, but in a positive way. As in, like, I'm just there and I'm invisible, which is nice. Because I guess there are many people that look like me. So there is less curiosity there. Also, I feel like Russian people are generally in their own zone. Chinese people are a bit more curious. They want to ask you questions. They want to walk up to you. I mean, not to say that Russian people don't, but I think in China, it's something that is more common when you have people that generally will come up to you and start a conversation. But in Moscow, it's fast. He wants to get to the bakery. He wants to get to the cafe. He wants to get to work. So I feel like the life here, people generally don't really care. In terms of like the family unit rather, my wife's family is pretty accepting of me. I feel like it's the first time that I have been in a foreign country and I feel like I'm at home. And that wasn't my initial thought because a lot of people were telling me, Andy, you're going to go to Russia and then your Russian family is going to chuck you out. They're going to be like, no, we don't accept you. But it's funny because I remember asking my wife's mother if I could marry her, and she's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to marry Christina? I mean, I don't mind." And I'm like, well, I think so.
Well, let me think about it.
She's like, "Are you sure?
Do you know her?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess. She's like, "No, don't say I guess." Are you? I'm like, "Yes, of course I do." But jokes aside, they are very welcoming. In China, I had a very turbulent dating life because I guess Chinese people are very traditional. So it's very difficult to get past just having a girlfriend because the families generally like to keep it Chinese, which is understandable. I never speak ill about people that say they want to stick to the culture or they want to preserve it. Good on you. Of course, I feel like here I have the chance to sort of blend in and I'm not made to feel a bit strange or different. So the chances of me being, one situation in China, for example, I had a person that walked up to me and rubbed my skin and was like, "Oh, it doesn't come out." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's how pigment works." Or at least I hope. But in Russia, that's not really going to happen. I mean, yes, people are generally shocked. I think a lot of people are amused, especially when I'm holding my wife's hand. A lot of the babushkas are very amused and they're so happy and smiling, you know. So, of course, people do have their expressions and they do react. But I feel like here it is less. I feel less watched. Or if I'm watched, it's basically how we watch foreigners in my country. In my country, people pretend like they don't see you. They just move their eyes around, and then when you're gone, yeah, he's not from here. So that's basically my experience.
So, your wife, what language do you guys communicate in?
Oh, yes, we communicate in English. She is C2 English. She was a teacher before. So funny enough, when I was training to be a teacher, she trained me. So that's an interesting one. He has Delta, Salta, every English degree known to man. So he taught me all I know currently in terms of like techniques. Yeah.
So, how is that interfering with you learning Russian? Because
Um,
you guys met, and you're speaking English from the beginning of your
yeah.
relationship, right? So, I was reading an article about this because my wife and we met in upstate New York. She's Russian, but we started in English. We lived there together for 11 years speaking English. And then I moved to Moscow, and with my children growing up, I spoke English. She
Yeah.
spoke Russian to them. So, how do you find it trying to learn Russian when you and your wife communicate in English and she's C2 English? So,
Mm.
are you learning Russian with her?
Yeah, I feel like with my wife, we predominantly speak English, but we have these scenarios when I'm trying to say something to somebody else, or when generally I see something and I ask her what it means. And then we go to Babushka, and then Babushka doesn't speak a lick of English. So I get these words from my wife. I'm like, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this. And then it's either an epic fail because my Babushka will not understand it all. And then I'm like, okay, let's go back, love. Let's go back to the drawing board. I need to take more notes and I need to communicate with her. So my wife is kind of like my tutor because she actually taught me Russian first. Now I have a teacher. But we predominantly speak in Russian. But recently she does this thing with me when she just changes to Russian. And I'm like, oh. And she's like, yeah, we're not speaking English. Communicate in Russian. You got to learn faster. So she has that teaching mindset, even though she doesn't teach as much. So she kind of surprises me occasionally, but she more prepares me to talk to her grandmother. Or when we're in public, I'm like, I don't know how to say this. She's like, yes, you do. I taught you this 2 weeks ago. Go ahead. So, yeah, that's basically the relationship we have with language.
I'm going to give you one pointer. Don't
Yeah.
use a translator with your mother-in-law because it got me in trouble, big time. Be careful with the translators. Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish somebody told me that earlier.
Cool.
So, Andy,
Kevin,
how
go
do
for
you
it.
find life in Russia in general? I mean,
Yeah, I think life in Russia is nice. It's peaceful. I think I have accessed different parts of myself that I did not know existed. For example, generally, I come from a family unit that is not cold, but we're not really good with sharing affection. I think because my parents came from a time of war, so we're pretty tough. We don't do hugs and kisses and stuff like that. So when I came here, I got a lot of hugs and kisses from her family. So I was like, oh wow, this is completely different. So when you experience for me, the lifestyle generally is pretty fast. But I lived in Shanghai for a year, so I kind of got used to it. I was like, oh okay, this is pretty similar to Shanghai. The subway is a dream. I don't know. Every time I walk in the Moscow subway, I'm just there on my phone reading why it looks like this, or I'm reading an article about every different subway station that I pass through. But generally, I feel like life is good because her family helped me settle in pretty well. Um, and also, I'm trying different things. I'm into yoga. which is always interesting. When I walk in and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, here's Andy." So it's a new experience, new challenges. It's nice.
Hold on. So, Andy, you're telling me I can't give you a hug when we meet?
No, you can. I mean, I'm
Oh,
different now.
yeah.
I mean,
All
I'm
right.
fully okay with the hug. Before, I was awkward. Like, I was like, "Oh, okay, she's hugging me. She's hugging me. Okay, okay. What do I do? What do I do? Do I hug her
Hug
back?"
back.
And then I
Hug her
was-
back, man.
But I think I have adapted. So feel free to hug me. That's okay.
But just, I'm sure people are going to say,
Yeah.
you know, you're in Moscow. I'm here 13 years, and I have the same Russian friends who, when I post something, and I say that I'm living in Russia, they're like, Daniel, you're not living in Russia, you're living in Moscow. Moscow is not Russia.
Oh, here
I
we
get
go.
it all for 13 years. I've been getting this. So I guess I have to go move somewhere like in the Far East just so I can say, okay, I'm living in Russia. But, some people, Andy, are going to say, or they might think, all right, he's living in Moscow. It's an international city. It's not, it's like New York. New York is not like America. It's a melting pot, many different people living. So I don't know. Has anyone made any comments like that? Like that you're in Moscow, so it's really not, Russia. And you really
Yes.
haven't, you really haven't experienced
Yeah, I get
Russia.
this. I get this a lot, especially in the comments on some of my videos. People are like, "You know nothing about Russia.
Yeah.
You don't know the mean streets." I'm just like, okay.
The mean streets. Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but
Well,
yeah, I do
Kevin's
get
living
it a
in the,
lot.
Kevin's living on the mean streets.
Oh, Kevin, you're on the mean streets.
What I get is you don't live in Russia, you live in Ukraine. So
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All
Oh,
right.
I like
Okay.
that. Show us the shirt you're wearing, Kev.
Ah,
Ah, there you
see?
go.
Netherlands,
Showing the colors.
Netherlands.
I like it.
I like it too. Yeah. But
So-
yes,
Believe it or not, I bought it in the States.
really.
Oh, did you?
Really?
Yeah.
Curious.
Wow.
Pick up
But
my
I
Andy,
looked for a replacement here, can't find them.
Wow.
But I'm interested, Andy, to see a video that you make when you go to a different part of Russia. When you get out of Moscow and to see how your experience is. In other parts.
Yeah, I think that would be very useful. I'm going to Yaroslavl this winter vacation, and I think I would like. I'm not a vlogger, and it's very hard for me, but I would love to just show a different perspective, just compared to just Moscow. So I might just force myself to do it, try to show something. But I think it could be a nice experience. I think that would be really useful, and I could give the people that keep on saying, "Hey, show us something else, something to watch," I guess. But I think I might need to research and know exactly how to place the camera and stuff, because I've noticed when I try to vlog myself, I basically look like my mom trying to answer a video call. So it's like that,
Yeah.
yeah. So we have to do some research and practice beforehand. So yeah, but I would like to do that. I feel like it's useful, especially with Yaroslavl. I think it's a very historical place. I'm not going to pretend like I know so much about it, but I would like to go and experience it and see how it is. And I would love to even see Crimea. That's something that's on my list as well.
Hint, Kevin.
Yeah,
Hint.
He's welcome to come to Crimea, Ukraine, southern Russia.
Oh man.
Close to 404. Near 404.
Near 404.
We'll have some missiles and drones sent in just for you.
Fireworks.
I'm very thankful
Fireworks.
for the homecoming. So the fireworks too.
We have big fireworks. They go kaboom.
So, Andy, a question like where you were born and where you're from. What's the mentality between family and friends talking about politics, maybe talking about religion? Like in America with my family, and I'm from Long Island, New York, and few things you don't do is you don't talk about politics when you're at a party or a family dinner or about religion or topics like that. How is it in your country where you're from? Where you're from?
Yeah, so I was born in Mount Botswana, whereas the people from there call it Maun. And politics is almost like taboo. My dad was actually not so thrilled when I made my YouTube channel because he was like, "Oh no, now you're going to talk about politics. They're going to cancel you, son." I was like, well, I mean, if it happens, it happens. If they cancel me, I mean, it happens." So generally, politics are like taboo. People don't like to talk about it. When you talk about it, you're sort of doing it in private, or people don't want to talk about it in general. Religion in my country is generally Christianity. So when you believe in something else, people basically don't care because I come from a riverside. It's almost like a village in many regards. I think it has improved a lot because I haven't been there in like 8 years, but it has a flurry of people from all over the world. So generally, just like Frenchmen, Englishmen, people from there, people from different parts of Africa. So people generally don't really care what your religion is, but we do label Christianity as the main religion. And of course, you might get a pastor trying to convince you if you think otherwise, or trying to throw holy water at you if you don't believe in Jesus. But yeah, I think generally politics is something that is not really welcomed in terms of discussing it. So when I do this, a lot of my friends kind of look at me like, "Whoa, you're so brave. I'd like to be like you." And I'm like, it's not that deep. I'm actually not that educated in this field. I am still studying it. And I kind of approach it from a very, I would say, less detailed standpoint because I just use my logic or I watch some of my favorite bloggers. But my wife, for example, she has a really good view of this because she was typing, she was there, she was seeing different parts of the internet, etc. So I'm learning, but people generally look at me as really brave. But I'm like, no, I'm just voicing something that I think is not right or I don't agree with. So that's the general perception.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have a question, Andy. Is what passport do you hold?
I hold,
Zimbabwe, Botswana?
yes, Zimbabwe. But I was born in Botswana. I lived there my whole life. I've only been to Zimbabwe at least 10 times. But the people from Botswana say that I'm not from Botswana. They're like, "Nah, sorry, you're Zimbabwean." And that is like the biggest insult, I suppose, because a lot of people are like, "You're Zimbabwean, ha ha ha," and you're like, "I guess." It's like it's basically like a slur back home. It's how somebody gets at you by calling you Zimbabwean. So,
So,
yeah,
so Botswana passport.
no, Zimbabwean passport.
Zimbabwean. Okay, is Zimbabwe part of the shared values visa program for temporary residency?
No, and I think this is the first time that I actually wish that my country did not agree with Russia. because my president always say like, "Oh, yes, Russia, we love Putin." Yeah, I'm like, you're ruining it. So yeah, that's very pro-Russian, very pro-Russian, but also they slightly lean towards America at times. For example, recently, a really crazy situation because in my country, a long time ago, I talked about the colonial era. Zimbabwe is actually newly independent. It got its independence in the 1980s. I think it was 1982. Anybody that's Zimbabwean can correct me. And they were colonized by the British and the Dutch. So the Dutch basically took the land. Well, we just walked in and took it. That's how colonization works. And I guess a lot of the people there still have this bitter taste in their mouth after the president came into power. I think it was Robert Mugabe. He took back the country, I would say. Not in the most peaceful way. But now the government is saying they want to give the Dutch farmers back their land that was taken back because the locals lost the land and got it back. And now they want to give it back to the Dutch farmers, or at least give them compensation, because during Robert Mugabe's time, he basically took the land back by force. And a lot of people there are saying that we're kind of appeasing America because we want these sanctions to be lifted. I think everybody's aware of how terrible my country's currency is. So we use dollars because if you wanted to buy a cup or some matches, maybe you would pay like a zillion Zimbabwean dollars. So the currency is basically donezo. It's useless. So yeah, they're trying to get into the good graces by giving back certain things, but a lot of the people are kind of complaining, I guess. So that's the scenario.
Yeah, that seems kind of backwards. Is they took Zimbabwe people's land,
Mm-hmm.
you had to get it back, and now they want to give it back to them again.
Exactly. So I heard there was like a bill that was signed. I don't know if it was the land or the money, but I saw the article about the money. So they are gathering money to give back to the families of the people that had their land taken back. So yeah, a lot of Zimbabweans are furious, of course. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a sensitive one. It's very hard to take a stance, because of course some of the kids that inherited their parents' farms and wealth, they're like, I didn't do anything, So yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those.
Andy, how many siblings do you have?
I have a sister, one sister. Yes.
Younger, older?
3 years older than me. A lot of people in Russia, especially my students, are like, really, only one? I heard Africans have 6 and 8 brothers and sisters. I'm like, well, my parents did, but the newer generation, no. But yeah, just one.
Any interest from either your sister or maybe your parents to visit Russia?
Oh yeah, my dad is really into the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. He sends me articles and he's just like, did you know that? Did you know that there's actually a different perspective? And I was like, I don't know, could be, So he comes at me with like these articles, and he has recently seen like the Russian media, so he's very interested because we both come from the same educational system, Cambridge, British educational system. So we were raised to think that Russia is some bad guy, the big bad, Vladimir in the Hollywood film that is somehow going to take over New York or something. That's how we viewed Russian people because of television and our books, and we never had like another angle. So when he viewed this, because I went to Russia, he was worried at first. He's like, oh no, you're going to be blown to smithereens. I'm like, no, it's not like that. He researched a lot, and he's like, oh, so there's another perspective. I'm like, yeah, the two sides to every story. So my dad is really intrigued. He says he would love to see Moscow. He wants to try the Russian vodka. My mom basically has never been out of Africa, so she would love to go anywhere. Really, she would love to explore more because she has only been within. She has only been in Namibia, South Africa, and some other African countries, but never out of Africa. So they're willing, and my wife's family is also really excited to meet them too. So, yeah.
Good. Hope it happens, and hope it happens soon.
Me too.
So, Andy, we have a question for you from our viewers.
Oh,
why you chose Yaroslav for your first out of Moscow trip?
Well, I want to say something profound, but my wife and I were basically just searching through a couple of destinations to go to, and we're like, which one is not so far? And we're like, this one looks good. And then she's like, this one has some history behind it. And I was like, okay. So I didn't really have like a specific reason. Only later did I find out, oh wow, there are some things that I didn't know. For example, I did not know that there is a Kremlin in every city. I was like, what? Well, that is shocking. So I guess that is possibly going to be the first Kremlin besides the one in Red Square that I will see. So that kind of attracted me. But in terms of like choosing the destination, we were pretty lazy. We were like, we need a close place, just to get away, have a little, excursion or something. So we chose a destination that was close by.
When did you move to Moscow?
Petersburg yet?
What was that?
Been to St. Petersburg yet?
No, but my friends keep on telling me I should go, and they keep on telling me it's better than Moscow. So there's this beef between my friends. I had two different friends trying to advise me. It's like, Moscow's better. It's like, how dare you say that? St. Petersburg is better. So I'd like to explore. I'd love to see St. Petersburg. Yeah.
Depends on what you're looking for. I mean, Crimea is another monster. Depends on what you're looking for.
I see.
St. Petersburg in the summer, though. Summertime.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a better time to go.
Or Golden Autumn. Golden Autumn's pretty there as well.
Yeah. Pushkin.
When did you move to Moscow?
So the whole Moscow thing is really confusing because originally I left China, I think almost 2 or 3 years ago, to visit my then girlfriend, because my wife was my girlfriend at the time, and I proposed, and I've basically been in and out of Russia for like 2 to 3 years. I go and it was 3 months, wait again, and 3 months. Recently we got married, a year ago, a year and a few months ago. So now I'm on a year visa. I plan to write the exam. And then they were like, well, there's a new decree, buddy. You've got to be married for 3 years, and then you can apply for the TRP. So there's that. So I haven't really fully moved, I would say. I am just in and out. But I think this has been the longest time that I've been in Russia, in one go. And I keep on finding new gems and meeting new people. So I think it's pretty cool. But hopefully, after this decree is passed, of course, I guess I'll have to keep on going out and coming back in after a year. Or, of course, if we have children, of course, that might change the dynamic. But, yeah, right now I'm just on a year visa currently.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And this visa, you have to return back to Zimbabwe to apply?
To Botswana, but it's actually
Botswana?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky now because now my Botswana residency is actually going to expire, which is funny because I've been in Botswana my whole life, but I have a residence permit. So people are like, where are you going? I'm going home. Is it really your home, Andy? I see your residence permit there, so yeah, here we go. But I don't know. It might be me returning to Zimbabwe. It might be me returning to Botswana. I guess we'll see when it arrives, when the time arrives, rather. So.
Very, very.
So why don't you just apply for a quota based on your marriage and go for temporary residency?
A quota. How does a quota work? Actually, I've heard that before.
You go in and apply, and you're applying for permission to apply for temporary residency, and you can do that based off of your marriage.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You can apply every month.
Yeah, once a month. If they turn you down, you can apply again. Once they say okay, you can immediately apply for temporary residency, and then you don't have to leave if your passport expires until they tell you, yes, we accept you, or no, we don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't actually.
And if they say yes, you can stay, you go in, they stamp a new visa in your passport. It's good for 3 years, or until your passport expires.
What's the probability on that quota? Is it just like you're rolling the dice, or is it?
It depends on what region you're in. I don't know what the probability is in Moscow. It's extremely high in Crimea. It just depends on how many. Every region has a certain number they can give out a year. End of year is a good time to apply because if they haven't handed them all out, they want to hand them all out before the end of the year. And on the other hand, the first of the year is a good time because they have brand new set of quotas they can hand out.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that. I think I've seen it posted on Braden's channel. I saw quota and I was like, oh wait, recently, but I didn't know the semantics behind it. That could actually be something I should look into. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I would think as well.
Yeah, temporary residence test is pretty simple.
Yeah. I guess now it's a bit more complicated because there are no private centers. So we're basically,
The test is the same. It's just that you can't bribe your way into getting a certificate.
Yeah, okay. So
Andy, but online. I can send you a link sometime this week if you remind me.
All right, I'll check it out. I'd like to see how the paper looks.
Here's a picture. Describe what's going on.
Okay.
I would think, Andy, that since you've been married over a year, that you would qualify to apply for a temporary residency based on marriage. I know that the law recently changed, but I wonder if they would, as we would say in the West, grandfather you in, because your marriage took place back when you could apply immediately. So I'm wondering, that might be a good question to ask maybe an immigration attorney, maybe like Braden or somebody like that.
Yeah, I guess we could give it a whirl. Our lawyer before, we had one that we spoke to that was talking about everything involved with this. He recommended the test and the decree was passed. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to communicate with him, but that's interesting because the quota sounds like a good avenue actually. I've seen it, but I was like, I wasn't so sure about it because I thought maybe it's just like, like winning the lottery or something. But then hearing more about it, I'm like, okay.
It is kind of like winning the lottery, but...
Oh, it is? Okay. So, okay. I mean, why not?
They give certain priority to different people. So married people tend to have a higher probability of getting it if they're married to a Russian person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I came in on. I got turned down for my first application for a quota because of my background, and they wanted to dig into my background more. But second month I applied, they said okay.
So you need like a criminal record and all that? Was it just like, how does it work?
I'm former 3-letter U.S. agency guy.
Okay, so that's a different ball game. So gotcha.
And they took me.
Okay. I mean, I could try. I mean, I don't see why I shouldn't. That could be a good idea. I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah, there's no reason not to.
Yeah,
no reason not to.
I mean, the laws are always changing. When I was applying for my permanent, you have a temporary that's good for 3 years, and you had a permanent that's good for 5 years. So it's actually not a permanent. But then they changed the laws, so I got my permanent. It was better to apply with under my daughter than my wife because I got the permanent that is actually permanent. It's not 5 years. And then when it was time for me to apply for my citizenship, it was easier. It was better to go with my wife because we're together 23 years. So for the permanent residency, Timur, an immigration lawyer, said file it under your daughter. So then I got the permanent, which is actually a real permanent. It never expires. And then I kept that for a while, and then I was just getting tired of every year I have to register, and blah blah blah. And so I applied for my citizenship, and then he told me to apply through being married. I thought I was going to do it again under having a child, but he said, no, it's easier and faster when you're married.
So, and the marriage thing is interesting because, you know, when I applied, you had to be married for 3 years, and then they changed it. You had no time limit, but you had to have a child together. That was just last year. And then this year they changed it, so now there's no time limit again.
Yeah. So, yeah, Andy, you should definitely look at your options.
Yeah, I guess I have some time because my permit expires in July. So
don't say you have.
Oh,
that's
I shouldn't say
no.
that.
I'm saying no. A lot of people do that. They procrastinate. They say, "Oh, I have a 3-year temporary. I'm going to do it. You know." And it just, I've done it, man. I've had it all. I've had all the visas. I've had the temporary. I had the permanent. I had the citizenship. And when you get it and you say, "Okay, I have 3 years," well, it was almost 2 years. I already had it, and I'm like, "Whoa, what am I doing? You know, I need to apply." Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't wait. Don't wait. Try to find out all the information you can and see, you know, and talk with Kevin and Eddie, man. These guys are so much knowledge. If I ever have a question, I write to them one off and they have an answer all the time. But, you know, don't wait. Check out this quota, you know, and get on it right away because, well, the system is faster and easier now. When I moved here 13 years ago, I don't even want to tell you what I had to do to try to even be seen.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a whole different world now. But I wouldn't wait, man. Don't say, "Oh, I have till July." I would try to find out answers right away. You know, and see what your options are.
Yeah. No.
Because then you might not have to leave. You know, in July.
Yeah, that would be very useful because the tickets back to Botswana are murder. So that would
how long is the flight, and what's the route to get back?
Okay, so I basically need to go through Ethiopia and then go. Well, sometimes it could even be through Zimbabwe and then Botswana, or it'd be through South Africa and then to Botswana. It can take almost 2 days, basically. So it's one of those. So long trip, and the tickets have basically doubled recently. So, yeah, there's that too. And Ethiopia is the only option. So, yeah.
So, Andy, a different topic. You said you're teaching now while you're in Moscow. Is it Chinese or is it English?
Yeah, so I have some online classes. I teach Chinese. I teach English. I've been doing this basically for at least 7 years.
Okay.
Because I already had some students, but recently when I came to, well, before I was coming even, I had like some students that signed up. So I teach Chinese, I teach English, and yeah, it's one of those.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you teach, just one quick question. You teach Chinese from English?
Yes. Yeah. But sometimes it gets tricky because some of my students don't know English. So then I have to get creative. So I designed these PPTs, and one of my colleagues was so confused. She was like, why? Why? Like, how do you teach somebody that doesn't speak English how to speak Chinese? I'm just like, well, I've had a lot of practice with teaching Chinese people English, and they didn't know a lick of it, you know? I didn't know. First, I knew no Chinese. So I had to find these ways to sort of give them the knowledge. So it works, but my colleagues always like, how do you do that? I could never do that. But I guess it takes a lot of creativity.
So you should be able to charge them for the English class and the Chinese class. You get 2 in 1.
You know, you're onto something. I think that should definitely.
Yeah. So, Andy, now that you've been exposed to Russian and its crazy cases and all that good stuff, how does it compare to learning Chinese? For you, when you first started to learn Chinese to now having to learn Russian, what's the level of difficulty or ease?
I think a lot of people are going to come at me because every time I say that Russian is is harder than Chinese. People are like, no, how dare you, blasphemy, you know. But I really think that Russian is more difficult than Chinese in some regards. One being that Russian basically has a lot more grammar. Chinese has its structures, but for example, if you know the word for go, go in Chinese is chu, right?
God
You
bless you.
basically can form any sentence. You know the verb, that's it. You're like, oh, I'm amazing. I can make 16, 15 sentences with chu. In Russian, I have to learn all these verbs of motion. And I'm like, no, I'm going to say idiot. I'm going to say this. And it's not the right one. Yeah, you do. No, Andy. That's the one for walking. Oh, okay. So there are other things there. But Chinese, in terms of character writing, that's the most difficult part, especially if you have a teacher that is a letter of the law. Because when you first learn Chinese, you have the radicals. You have to write the exact characters the exact way that they are, each step, left to right, top to bottom. And some people find that frustrating. And some teachers are trained to even see if you're writing it in the opposite way. I don't know how they do it, but my teacher was like, hey, why did you write from bottom to top? And I'm like, how do you even know these things? So the character writing is murder. People struggle with the tones. For example, the word ma, right? You have a horse and then you have a swear word. The tones, there are 4 different tones.
Wow.
There's Yisheng, Ersheng, Sansheng, and Sisheng. Basically tone 1, tone 2, tone 3, tone 4. And there's actually a 5th one, which is neutral. They call it tone 0, where it's just like you pronounce it like you're speaking English. There's no tone on it. So I could be there like ma, and I'll be talking about a horse, and I could be like ma, and maybe I just, cussed you out. So, yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference with the tones, and people find that annoying because in Chinese, they designed pinyin for us, which is basically the Latin alphabet with the tones on top of them. And they did this for us, but it makes it even more confusing because some words share the exact same letters, the exact same tone, but it's not the same word. So there's that as well. So people complain about that. But for me, I feel like Russian is a bit more intense because I feel like for the first time ever since I was learning English as a kid, I actually have to pay a lot more attention to grammar because in China, it is so big. So they make the language easy so that everybody can speak to each other. The HSK book, which is Hanyu Shaping Kaoshi, right? The Chinese leveling test. It'll teach you, for example, 我会, let me see, 我会去, which is like I can go. And then you speak to a Chinese person, they can omit this, or you can learn something else, and the book will tell you you're supposed to say 我会, which is I can, but then the Chinese person will omit the subject and just be like 会啊, or there are these little nuances. So when you learn the language, Chinese is focused in a way that everybody can speak to each other. Because the country is huge, well, not huge, but the population is huge. So everybody needs to communicate with each other. So you have these little gaps, you can sneak in something. And I noticed that the more I learned Chinese and the more I started to sound standard, a lot of my Chinese friends would be like, why do you talk like that? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, why do you talk like you came from Beijing University? I don't even talk like that. So, because they omit so many things. I'm speaking with the individual tones. I'm there like, 你去哪儿? Which is like, where do you go? They slur their speech. Like, 去哪儿? Right? Just like that. So they're like, why are you so focused on each individual tone? I'm like, well, I learned the language. It's school.
Yeah, and I've heard about that as well about Chinese, is that it's almost like you're singing instead of speaking. I guess because of the tones. Yeah. Would that be accurate to say that?
Exactly, especially when you're learning the language. But as you become better at speaking it, you actually realize that it almost becomes one of the things when people almost swallow the words occasionally. So also it depends on the province, because each province in China has a different accent, different way of saying things, even their own dialect. So the tones generally make it sound like you're singing. But then also, as you learn the language more, you notice that there's a lot of slurring and additional things they add. For example, in the north, they love to add an ending R, which is just an ending. For example, ni is you, chu, go, nar, which basically means like, where are you going? So the standard is ni chu na, but then somebody from Jinan would say ni chu na. It would have the ra there. So accent also changes it. So you learn the standard Chinese, you talk to somebody from the village, maybe in the south, you talk to somebody else, and you're like, oh man, they didn't really say it the way that I learned it in my book. So they're like, nah, this guy thinks he's, yeah. So yeah.
I can say that. I want tuna.
I want tuna.
I want tuna.
Tuna. Yeah. So where are you going?
Andy, how long did it take you to learn Chinese?
It took me to communicate and speak in public. I think it took me like 2 to 3 years. I could have actually been a lot better. I have enough to teach. For example, there are basically 6 levels, and if you stop at 4 or 5, you are skilled enough to teach students, of course, because 5 is like God level, and then 6 is like, why are you doing it? Who do you want to be? You want to be the Chinese Pushkin or something? That's how it works. So you have those scenarios when you're trying to learn the levels, and if you reach like 4, 3, even 3, I know people that know 3 and they can survive in China comfortably, because that's like standard. You can speak, you can say a few things. Also, if you live there, maybe you learn a few phrases. But it took me maybe 3 years to go outside and not be confused and speak to people, because I guess a majority of the people speak Chinese, of course. So you speak English to them, they're like, huh? So you're forced to speak Chinese,
So, guys, I'm going to say goodbye here. I have to go.
As do I.
Thank you for having me. And Andy, it would be great to meet with you sometime and in person, yeah. But again, guys, thank you for having me, and have a wonderful week.
Dan, thanks for being a part of our idiocy tonight.
Yeah.
And welcome, fellow idiot.
Yes, and you had asked earlier about what was going on in Syria, and if you could see, we had breaking news while we were on the live.
Oh, what is it?
Oh, well, let me just put the banner back on. But
breaking
Assad and members of his family have arrived in Moscow. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Granted asylum here. So
it's great that they're safe, but it's sad. It's sad that he had to leave. I've never been, and I really wish I visited Syria before. Before everything that's been going on, in Syria. I hear it was a beautiful, beautiful country, and the people, and so it's very, very sad to see what's happening in many countries around the world, and people have to ask themselves, why is this happening? What's going on in all these different countries? Why? And what's going on now, Kevin, in Georgia? Is that another? What do you call it?
It's Western backed. Go check out my interview with Mike Krupa that Eddie and I did last night, and we actually talk about that.
Yeah. The madness has to stop. It has to stop. Yeah. So it's like another color revolution that's going on there, or what? They're trying to overthrow
Trying.
A lot of similarities with Maidan.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So good interview with Mike. Go check it out.
And
Hey, Dan,
before
you run off, there was a quick question from Raymond. Wants to know, during your time in Russia, your 12, 13 years here, has the U.S. Embassy ever assisted you in any way?
To be honest, try not to go there if I don't have to, but been there just to get new passports, and that's it. To be honest with you, 13 years I'm here, I've never really gone on the website. I had many Russians asking me, why am I still here during the pandemic? Why am I not, going back to America? And then the SMO starts. They're like, why are you still here? And they're like, oh, didn't you read this from the US? I'm like, no, I don't really pay attention. I mean, Russia's my home, and my wife and my children are Russian. I'm Russian. We're American and Russian. But I said, where am I going? Just because I have a blue passport, I'm going to run back to America because a pandemic started. Well, a plandemic started, or because of the SMO started. Where am I running to? This is my home. This is where my daughter was born here. My son came here when he was a year and 2 months. So no, I only went there just for passport renewals. That's it. I don't. And it's funny because the amount of taxes that we pay, the amount to have a U.S. passport, it's we can travel a lot and we can go to a lot of places. It's convenient, but I don't know if many people really understand the responsibility of having one. But if I told you how much taxes I paid, my wife and I paid on Long Island, just it's crazy. But so what I don't understand is we have an embassy in Moscow, and I couldn't even go there. I couldn't even go and renew my daughter's citizenship. Now I have to travel to another country to do it. So a country that is so, powerful and rich, and we're so blessed to have this path. I have no services for many years now. I had to do fingerprints at an international company and then send it to America. When you have embassies here from countries that are small, they can go in and just do the fingerprints right at the embassy. Like, why is it that the services are so limited? But yeah.
I have to go. See you guys.
Oh, okay, Kev.
Andy,
thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for coming.
Everyone's just like, oh, listen, I'm proud to be an American. I love my country, and I served 4 years in the military, 6 months in war. But unfortunately, the people who are running the country are not good people, and they're not for Americans. They're for everyone else. Not even for everyone else. They're not even for, But to have an embassy in Moscow, a U.S. embassy that, how many years now is it, Eddie? We can't even go there. They have no services.
Yeah, they've been closed since
they have no
2021.
Services. Yeah, for citizens. They have no services. We have to leave the country and go to another U.S. embassy in another country to get things done. And my British friend went right to the embassy, got his fingerprints done. Me, I have to go and get them done with ink and send them DHL to the States, and then this and it, and then pay for this and pay for that, and then it's got to go to the State Department to get. When he goes in and out within like 30 minutes, and gets the fingerprints done, gets the police report from their embassy, right?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like
it's really sad.
Yeah.
Hopefully Marco Rubio will turn it around. You never know.
Yeah, things need to.
But that's a
things,
discussion for another day.
yeah. But things need to change, because I'm like, are you kidding me? You want us to pay taxes when we're not even living in the country, but you can't provide me services that these other countries are providing with half the population and half the money and half the power, and they can go in and do fingerprints and get an intelligence report, but I have to do it like I'm living 50 years ago,
Sure.
60 years ago.
U.S. citizenship is not free. It costs
No.
to maintain that passport. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're about ready to wrap this up. We've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. And before we say goodbye or ask for parting thoughts, I want to share a little clip of the interview from the video that I made with Andy. So if you haven't seen this video, it came out just this past Friday. You'll find the link. I'll put the link down in this video. So you'll find the link and go and watch that video. But here is just a little snippet. Let me go ahead and play that right now.
That
Whoa.
is pretty much, what's the term? Savage. At times I don't actually know where I'm from. And I wrote her poetry. I mean, pages and pages of poetry. Basically a monument in China when you are a foreigner. In a situation when I really was uncomfortable. This is the way we do things. This is our country. If you don't like it, skedaddle. I'm out. I'm gone. I can't do this. I feel like I am in a situation where I'm discriminated.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Don't miss this exciting interview with AfroLev, coming soon on the Moscow Photographer channel. Yeah, just a little clip from the wonderful, wonderful interview. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the interview. I watch it back at least twice a day. So
there you go. Let's get those views up. So if you haven't watched that, go and watch that. And I'm going to put up a banner right up if I can find it. Where is it? With your YouTube channel. I thought we got it in. Oh yeah, here it is. Save and show. There we go. This is the link to the AfroLev YouTube channel. Go there. You'll find the link also in the description as well. Go there, subscribe now, watch his videos. You'll love it. In fact, that's how I came across Andy. I was, where was I? I was in Nizhny Novgorod, scrolling YouTube in a hotel, and I see his interview with Hugh.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was one of the first ones you did. And I was like, I like this. And I like this guy. Who is he? And so I just reached out to him, sent him a message, and then finally, about a little over a month later, we finally put it together and were able to meet. Thank you, my friend, for joining. And thank you, Daniel, as well.
Thank you for having me, guys. Yep.
Any parting thoughts, Andy?
Well, I would say that if you are streaming this, if you're watching this live, or you stumbled upon this live, you better be subscribed to Eddie's channel because he has a lot of good content. That's also how I found him. And actually, I think the first thing I properly watched was the one with Dan. So I was like, oh, wow, this is incredible. It actually kind of gave me some ideas for my channel because the production was great. You know, the story was amazing. The shots were good. And the story was pretty powerful, really powerful. So it kind of inspired me also to continue going because I've had this idea for a while. But I guess seeing that video kind of gave me the idea of like, okay, so I can actually go out there. I can ask people more about their experiences. So I'm sure a lot of you also have that same thought when you watch the video. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you should go over and find Dan on the channel and see that interview. And I'm pretty sure that you'll enjoy the other content that he has. And thank you for having me on the show. It's really nice to do this. It's the first time I've been on YouTube Live, So
Hopefully not the last.
Oh,
hopefully
great.
not the last. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And
Good.
thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
You got it. Thank you. Daniel, any parting thoughts?
No, just waiting for winter to end.
That's another 4 or 5 months away.
Wow, you're gonna wait a long time, is he? So,
Oh, I love summer. I love the sun, man. You know, but no, it's beautiful now. It's snowed. It's white. You know, it's
Yeah,
not wet
it's
and
beautiful
dirty.
now.
But
Yeah.
no, just you know, thanks for watching, and yeah, thanks for having me, and you know, God bless.
You got it.
Mhm.
All right. From Moscow, all three of us here in Moscow. So from live from Moscow,
Woo-hoo.
Russia. It's
Moscow's
Sunday
in the
night.
house.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Y'all have a great one. God bless. Take care.